Well guys, it's time to finish this man basket project. It's had so many phases. If this is the first video that you're watching, look back. I think we'll link in the description below to the previous videos. This was just an idea that was in my head, and I drew it out and I located the metal, we welded it up, went through some horrific experiences doing paint prep. We also sawmilled the floor from some log butts that we had laying around. And then we worked on this mural, which I think speaks for itself. It turned out great. So I've been letting the paint cure for a little while. The enamel that we used is not something that cures very quickly, and it's definitely something you want to just be patient with. Otherwise, you're gonna end up just ruining the paint job. So this stuff's been curing, I think, for about a week or so, and it's definitely much harder than it was. I don't know what the actual full cure time is, but it's not short. It's definitely not 24 hours, even though the can says that you can touch it in 24 hours. So everything looks okay. The paint turned out okay. I think it's good enough. I'm gonna move on. We've got bigger fish to fry in this life. So I'm super excited to get the finishing touches put on this guy. I want to put the railing on, and then we've got some other little kind of housekeeping or bells and whistles that we need to do to make this thing ready to use. It's a little bit long. That's better. Guys, come on, you gotta test it. I mean, the chain isn't just for looks. I mean, a lot of us put it on there, we're like, all right, we're chained on, whatever, go, go, go. I don't know, it's part of me that just wanted to know if I tipped this thing practically upside down, would it fall off? The answer is no. All right, a lot of this stuff is just kind of like the housekeeping that's left to finalize this thing. This railing is super solid, super happy with the way that turned out. I did make a mistake, I'll admit that. I probably could have done a little bit better planning on these little pins. I don't really have a drill that can get this close to the metal and drill through, so these guys are at a little bit of an angle. I don't think anybody really cares. Doing its job, I think the pins make a lot of sense because there's definitely times where taking the front rail off makes a lot of sense. Like when we put those monster windows in up there, it was nice to have 3 rails and then take the front rail off and put the platform right at the height of the window so that there was no lifting. We basically just set the window right out into the sill. Those windows are heavy and that's just really high. I think that's going to work good. We've got pins in all the corners. We've obviously got the chain on the carriage. We've got a chain for the entryway. This is really the last few little bits before we can give this thing a test run. And I don't mean at this height, I mean up there. The last little thing that I want to do is put the retainer for these boards on. There's nothing obviously to keep these boards from falling out right now. I do have an idea though, and that is to put a piece of 3/4 by 3/4 angle iron in here and then basically just drill through the side to keep it on there, and that should keep the boards from falling out. Unfortunately, I waited a while for the paint to dry, and in the same amount of time, these boards are doing exactly what I worried they would do. It's not all of them, but some of them are warping. See it right there? They're trying to twist on me, and that's going to affect my ability to put this angle iron in there where I want it to. Hopefully we haven't waited too long. I guess this is just the back end of milling up green lumber and making a floor out of it and then using it. Another thing that I predicted is that these boards would shrink. Check this out. So these boards, if you remember back when we first put them in, were tight. These boards are gonna shrink a little bit, so there actually will be little gaps between them. And look at that. Are you serious right now? Like, this thing has shrunk all of 2 inches. Oh wow, 2 1/4. Unbelievable. So this floor is 2 1/4 inches narrower than it was when we milled it. I guess that sort of explains why the boards are warping. They're going through a very rapid drying process. I mean, they didn't feel wet when we milled them, obviously, but they were in stump form. And even though they've been out on the log pile for a couple of years, who's to say that they've dried out hardly at all? Hopefully, if we get this retainer on here, it'll help to keep the boards somewhat flat. Of course, it won't help to keep them from shrinking. We do want some gaps between the boards because when it rains, I'm actually hoping to protect this man basket. It sounds motherly, but it's been a lot of work and I want to try to keep it nice, especially the floor. So when we're not using it, hopefully we'll cover it. But anyway, we do want some gaps between the boards because if it rains, you don't want the floor holding the water. That would be the worst thing that would happen. So having some gaps in there is not a bad thing. If we spread the boards out, I think we can take up that 2 1/4 inches pretty easily. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, I gotta cut those, I forgot. That's kind of what I was afraid of, is that these boards are already pushing up enough that this isn't going to sit flat. Doggone it. Might be able to clamp it down. Yeah, we got a pretty good clamping surface, so there's a chance we can push that down. We want it to look more like that, super flush. Of course, if we push this side down, there's a chance the other side's not gonna fit either. That's better. I mean, we definitely don't want a lip there to trip on coming in. Well, that's pretty good actually, most of the way down. Pretty good. something tells me we're not going to be able to clamp that a whole lot. Well, so far this is going better than expected, but I think part of that is because the boards are actually turning on the other side. So while this side might end up looking pretty nice, the other side maybe not so much. But my thinking was that this side is the side that you enter on where the gate is, and you really don't want a tripping hazard. You don't want this retainer metal sticking up. So I'd rather this side be good than obviously having the other side stick up is fine. I mean, you're not really going to be walking off or in and out of that side of the basket after all. Ideally, they'd both be good. What's going on here? Oh, it's up against that weld. Dang it. Perfect. Well, I originally hadn't planned on using this many bolts. I was thinking that this 3/4 by 3/4 angle is a little bit more rigid, but let's be honest, those boards are going to push pretty hard on this metal. I mean, they want to warp pretty bad. So I've got to go to the store and get more of these bolts. We'll get this wrapped up and we'll see where we end up. What are you doing? Hey, it's too hot out here for gremlins like you. Yeah, it's too hot. Why aren't you inside sleeping? Everybody knows you're nocturnal. Yeah. Yeah. You better find somewhere to sleep before you melt, okay? Wants pets in the shade. Wants butt on camera. Always has butt on camera. Oh yeah. All right, that's finally complete. Guys, it worked. I was able to aggressively clamp that piece of metal there and kind of reset this wood just a little bit. And I think, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not as good as I had hoped it would be, but where I've bolted, it's really close. But that wood is so strong, as I predicted, it's actually bending this 3/4 angle up. So everywhere in the middle where there's no bolt, it's up. I mean, I could, if I really wanted to get over the top, I could clamp here probably, and I could double up on the number of bolts. I just think that's a little bit excessive. I'm really happy with the way these retainers turned out. I was unsure, and unfortunately I was a little bit impatient with clamping them, so I've damaged some of the paint. So probably we'll have to do some touch up on the paint just so they don't end up rusting. I think that's really the issue here, is not so much that they're pretty, but that, you know, over time they don't corrode and become ugly, I guess. Well, that wraps this project up. I'm so glad I took this project on. If you've seen the early videos, I was on the fence about whether or not to just buy a platform and get to work. But I'm really thankful that I took the time and I challenged myself to do something that's way outside my comfort zone. I am not a metal worker. It is not natural to me, although building things is not natural to me at all. And metal is probably at the highest of that list of things that don't come naturally to me. I'm thankful to my friend for helping me to weld this, and I feel like I learned a lot about welding, but still have obviously many years of practice to go to kind of get better at it. Hopefully we'll find some more projects in the future where I can do that. I'm excited to have a platform. We can finally get back to work on the house. It feels really great that it's something that we built. So that means there's only one thing left to do on this project.
We should come up here every night. That's pretty good.
All right, we're up here finally.
No, don't do that. Well, damn it. Go Vamp, son!
It was all good up there. When we first toasted, both of our beers were pretty full, and all they did was foam. Yeah. Because we had like the drinking part away from each other, so it just went like boom, and then it all foamed up. Justin's got good reflexes, so he got it away from himself, and I just poured it all over myself.